And gave me your okay. I'll take you on a trip beside the ocean and drop the top in Chesapeake Bay.
Michael and I had just spent the very first weekend of no work, no painting, no fixing up the cottage, and we went swimming and hiking on the beach and watching the sunset like we do every chance that we get. That evening we were watching a movie on the computer. It was The Tourist with Johnny Depp and Angelina Jolie. A great movie. I love how Johnny Depp always manages to inject humor in even the most dangerous situations. And of course Angelina brings the sexy mystery to the movie as well. And we only got about halfway through and the movie glitched. It just would not go forward. Tried multiple times, it just would not play. So I gave up, brushed my teeth, went to bed. And Michael was about to do the same thing, but he noticed a storm coming across the sanctuary. So he's looking through the window here and he noticed the storm and lightning coming. We were both big storm watchers, so he came to the edge of the doorway. And the sound of the storm was deafening. The constant lightning flashing, all the blinds closed. The thunder was constant, the wind, it wasn't howling, it was screaming. It was just so intense. I had never experienced a storm like that in my life. I've been through a hurricane, and this storm was way worse than that hurricane. And then during the storm, we were both in bed, and there was one particularly loud crack. Obviously lots of lightning cracking, thunder cracking, but there was one particularly loud crack that seemed a bit out of place. So I got out of bed, and I went to the bedroom doorway, and all I saw was our brand new ceiling hanging down right in front of the doorway. So I went and got a flashlight, came back to the doorway, and saw that it wasn't just the ceiling that fell down. I told Michael the ceiling fell down, and he thought the contractor maybe made a mistake, but it wasn't that at all. It was a huge tree that had fallen through the roof, through the ceiling, through the window, and you could see the tree trunk from the middle of the window and up through the ceiling. It had fallen and crashed. So when Michael could not get the front door open, and he obviously let me know that pretty quickly, we both headed to the back door, to the back of the house. And Michael was behind me. I'm not sure if he was, but I was duck walking through the house, keeping very low because we really didn't know what part of the ceiling might come down next. We didn't know which way the tree had fallen on the house. And as I'm duck walking back to the kitchen, I was dialing 911 on the cell phone, and it was busy, busy, busy. I just could not get through. So we knew, obviously, the whole area was suffering from the storm. Eventually, we did get through to 911, and we later learned that the reason it took so long for them to get to us was because there were 3 trees down on the road into Red Point, and the fire department had to cut those trees and move them out of the way so the emergency vehicle could get to us. We got out. Thank goodness we survived. Because I forgot to mention that the time that had elapsed between the movie glitching and the tree falling was about 20 minutes. So we were very lucky that evening not to have been sitting over here when that tree fell. It was pretty close. But we got out, we survived, and we drove home to Lancaster at 3:30 in the morning and slept for an hour and a half. The next morning, we called Bob the tree guy to come cut the tree off of our house and Travelers Insurance to report the claim. We drove back to Red Point, where the neighbors were all talking about the storm that blew through around midnight. It was called a derecho storm.
That was the worst storm I have ever been in down here. And we have a house here since 71, 72, and that is without a doubt the worst storm has ever been down here. Unbelievable lightning, unbelievable thunder, continuous.
And that blue house, something happened there, right? Did the electric line get pulled off?
Oh, the electric line got pulled out of that blue house.
Yeah.
The tree fell. The tree fell down on that. The tree fell down on that Red Point Road. That's what took the lights out in here.
Mm-hmm. What was most heartbreaking, we had just bought the cottage in December, and we all worked so hard to make it our own little vacation spot. Wesley and Sean ripped down the old hanging ceiling, and then Sean, he painted S's on every wall of the cottage with primer before we painted the green paint on the wall. The boys worked really, really hard, and it hurt to see all that destroyed. But there was more work to be done, cleanup. Bob the tree guy was amazing. He cut that tree out of the house in the scorching heat. That day, it had to be more than 100 degrees, and he was working in the sun. He was a true artist in the work that he did that day. And when he was done, the damage was finally, clearly, and horribly visible. The tale of Travelers, which we would soon learn to be a nightmare, began with the first adjuster who was flying up from Georgia, Leah, to whom we sent about 50 photographs of the damage. Leah never showed up. In the meantime, we met with our public adjuster, structural engineer, and general contractors at the cottage. And our real estate agent got busy trying to find a comparable property for our family to vacation over the summer while we lost the use of our cottage. The second adjuster, Anthony, who flew up from Texas, eventually came to inspect the damage more than a week after the tree crashed through the cottage. But back to Anthony, Travelers Adjuster number 2. Right away, Anthony informed us that we would not be getting any of our $33,600 in loss of use coverage because it's not a rental property and we were not losing any money. Well, we all looked at each other in disbelief, me, Michael, and our public adjuster. Excuse me, but clearly we lost the use of our vacation cottage. And clearly, as shown on our policy, we pay for $33,600 in loss of use coverage. Unbelievable. We retreated to powwow to figure out what the heck was going on. While we powwowed, via phone calls, emails, more phone calls and more emails, and waited to hear from Travelers, our twin boys, Sean and Wesley, asked,
Hey Mom, when are we going to the Bay?
Hey Mom, when are we going to the Bay?
Mom, when are we going to Red Point?
Mom, where are we going to Red Point?
and the fact that this summer was their last summer as kids before they started driving and getting jobs, dating girls, I say with a cringe. It was our last summer that our family would be able to be all together all summer. On top of that, every summer, Sean and Wes go to camp for a week. The family goes to the shore for a week. We go to a different beach each year. And the boys participate in various sports programs. Because the plan was to spend the summer at the cottage, the boys were not registered in any camps or sports programs. And their friends were. So poor Sean and Wes were having the most utterly boring summer of their lives. And there was only a month left in the summer. So guys, have you had an exciting summer?
Not really.
Bob didn't have to fly in from anywhere. He worked out of the Baltimore office. Bob was provided documentation from the public adjuster. He got our structural engineer's report and a cost estimate from a construction firm. Our angel of a real estate agent, again, searched for properties where we might stay to salvage the last month of summer. Then while Bob the adjuster was doing whatever he does,
Hey Mom, when are we going to the Bay?
Hey Mom, when are we going to the Bay?
Mom, when are we going to Red Point?
Mom, where are we going to Red Point?
at the end of the first week in August, I stopped by Horst to speak with our insurance agent in hopes that she might be able to help. She was too busy to spare a few minutes to meet, but spoke briefly to me from the lobby phone. Her supervisor called back later that morning to say that she'd, quote, try to light a fire at Travelers for Us. During the second week in August, we learned that Travelers had hired CRS Temporary Housing to try to find us a rental property. Apparently, they did not believe the research provided by the local real estate agent. She said that there was nothing comparable and available. This was ultimately confirmed by CRS after wasting more of our summer. I searched Travelers' website for somebody at the corporate headquarters who might help. What I found was the top dog, Jay Fishman, CEO. His name caught my eye not only because he was the head honcho, but because the title of the metal sculpture in the front yard of our cottage is also, ironically, Fishman. Trying to find some sort of connection to Fishman, I read that he's a director of ExxonMobil. I don't know anybody there directly. And a trustee of the University of Pennsylvania. Bingo! The Children's Hospital of Philadelphia is part of the University of Pennsylvania. So I called all of the doctors we've dealt with for my boy's health. Unfortunately, none of them ever heard of Fishman. So nearly a month and a half after the derecho hit Red Point, with our little cottage still wrapped up in tarp, I wrote him a letter. A 4-page letter with 20 pages of attachments, telling him the story of our little battered cottage in hopes that he could help. Meanwhile, family and friends followed our story on Facebook.
Great concept. You got their attention. Also, try to get some photos of their senior executives. You've seen those TV reports where they interview someone on the phone and they put up their photo. Have someone impersonate their voice and make excuses for not paying claims. You could do a series of 1-minute spots.
I had an awful time with an insurance company trying to get a bill paid. All you have to do is mention that maybe the insurance commission would be interested in hearing about this. If that doesn't do it, contact the insurance commission. That bill was paid so fast. Best of luck.
Sorry to hear you're having trouble with Travelers. Report it to the local paper and see what happens. Stir up some havoc and maybe that will do the job. I know that isn't your way, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. Good luck.
Insurance companies care not for us, Julie. They've sure shown that in recent years. Check and see what you can do under state law. You might have some legal rights here.
One of my best friends even came up with a plan of her own to show Travelers what she thinks of their business practices. She got a bulk mail solicitation and sent it back to Travelers with a note about how nasty they were treating the Rudisvilles, and she would not give them her business. Scott, the associate manager of the Baltimore office, eventually called. He did not commit to finding a rental property for the family. He did, however, report that the adjuster, Bob, had sent the repair scope to our public adjuster. It also prompted further perusing of the Travelers website. According to the website, for their second quarter, even after the catastrophes that hit this country, wildfires in Colorado, flooding in Florida, and the derecho that wiped out from the Midwest to the East Coast, Travelers reported a net income of nearly $500 million. Yet when we submitted an invoice from a contractor who pulled out debris in our cottage that got rained on for 3 hours because of the giant tree and holes in the roof, such as insulation, drywall ceiling, rugs, etc., to prevent mold from taking over the cottage, Bob the adjuster responded by saying, "How dare they say that they don't approve profit on small jobs when they reported a net income of nearly $500 million for their second quarter this year? Unbelievable. Do they expect nobody else is to make a profit for their business?" Our contractor responded to Travelers' request by saying, "I and my men do not work for free. I think this rule was decided over martinis at an insurance think tank. The hours worked and pay rates are as follows." And then he notes, "I can provide their age and weight as well as a specimen if necessary." When you report a loss to Travelers, we promise to respond with speed, compassion, integrity, and professionalism. Clearly, Travelers is unable to keep their promises, at least in this case. After 7 weeks, after mounds of paperwork, after 1.28 gigabytes of files on the laptop, even more on the home office computer, nearly 300 emails, and averaging 3 hours working for Travelers every day since the derecho blew our neighbor's tree onto the cottage.
The tree that fell through our window was on June 30th. Here it is today, the 9th of September, and I'm still standing under this huge hole with my roof collapsed, our roof collapsed, and still waiting to hear from Travelers on what we can do to get it resolved. Haven't been taking very good care of us.